the problem that Jack Smith faces. Do you actually think you can say, no, Trump knows he lost? There's almost zero evidence of that. There's one little drop where he says, Mike Pence says that Trump told him, you're too honest. Now, that's the closest thing to a real hook that it looked like you could spin that into saying, well, Trump knew that he was being dishonest and was criticizing Pence for being too honest, but that the pieces might not even be there for all of that.
Welcome to the Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here today with senior columnist Tim Carney. And Tim, let's talk about the Donald Trump indictment. Donald Trump had his first day of court for that this past week. First, let's just start off with what you thought of the strength of the indictment.
So it certainly lays out the case that Donald Trump went to extreme ends to try to, overturn the election, and that some of his arguments were kind of crazy while he was trying to argue that he had won, that he had said things to staffers such as, oh, we won all the states by hundreds of thousands of votes. It really lays out a case of a guy who simply could not accept his defeat and was willing to go to any lengths to, reverse his defeat. But that's kind of a political case. The legal case, I think, is, we'll wait to see the evidence, but it certainly looks like it's going to be pretty hard to prove.
How could Jack Smith possibly prove this in court? I mean, there's been a lot of criticism of the fact that, an indictment on something like this would require you to get inside Donald Trump's head at the time.
That's right, because Jack Smith asserts again and again in the indictment that Trump said things that were knowingly false. Now, anybody I know who spoke to Trump during these times between Election Day and January 6th, or since then, says, I think Donald Trump really, really believes all this stuff. Now, I think a lot of the stuff that he believes is wacko, and it's a good political argument for Republicans not to nominate him, but that's the case. But that's the problem that Jack Smith faces. Do you actually think you can say, no, Trump knows he lost? There's almost zero evidence of that. There's one little drop where he says, Mike Pence says that Trump told him, you're too honest. Now, that's the closest thing to a real hook that it looked like you could spin that into saying, well, Trump knew that he was being dishonest and was criticizing Pence for being too honest, but that the pieces might not even be there for all of that.
Right, and there's other ways to interpret that comment as well. Who are the types of witnesses that the Donald Trump legal team, I know there's been a lot of commentary about this, might call to prove his state of mind at the time? I mean, could this be a pretty far-reaching list of people?
Yeah, I mean, anybody who talked to him and could say, well, I absolutely know that Trump thought that he won that election. And Trump obviously doesn't even have to prove that any one of his, November, December, January accusations about the election were true. All he has to do is establish reasonable doubt that he believed them. Now, here's the trick, though, because to argue that often would require to say that Donald Trump was not of sound mind and body at the time. So I think Trump's legal defense could be politically damning for him.
Right, it's hard to argue that he's fit for office while also pleading, temporary insanity in his trial, right?
Yes.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more writing from Tim and the rest of the commentary team at washingtonexaminer.com.